Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to On Your Mental. This is the podcast that shares candid, open, and sometimes vulnerable conversations between and about men. And today, it's just me. So I hope you enjoy the episode. If you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. That way you know when new episodes come out. Anyways, today I have some things I want to get off my chest, if you will. So let's get started. So obviously it's not me and Kabir today. So if you're here for Kabir, it's too bad. Okay, I don't have him. I mean, I'll give you like a photo of him right here, right over here, right over here. Y'all can take that, but that's it. He's not going to be here. Okay, it's just me. Today I have some things that I wanted to talk about, and it's just like, it's something that's related, I guess, to a few previous episodes. The general idea of today, as you can tell by the title, is my thoughts on like what happens after a relationship ends, after a relationship moves on and either becomes something else or doesn't. In this case, I'm talking about what happens when it becomes something else. The reason why I want to talk about this is a couple of weeks ago, I was talking with Kabir and AJ, and we were talking about where I'm at right now with my ex, and we're still seeing each other as friends and just kind of feeling out if that's still okay. But what I realized through actually talking to my ex after that episode is that what I say on here is really just my own perspective, right? It's not going to be her side of any part of the story because she's not here talking about it. The importance of recognizing that is, since I have this platform, and I'm happy that the people who watch this are enjoying the content that's here and are hopefully getting something out of this content here, I have a responsibility to speak as true as possible to my experience with my ex and to her, because I still care about her. You know what I mean? It's not like our relationship is completely gone. We still know each other, and she's someone who I care a lot about. So I wouldn't want to be saying things nonchalantly or so casually to a point where she's not being reflected in a good light. So that brought on the thought of this conversation. And, well, conversation between me and y'all. It's more just me talking. But that brought on this idea for me and thinking more about it and why I care so much about the topic of what happens after a relationship. I think that I care so much about it because I just so firmly believe that a relationship doesn't just end. That's not the end of what it is. You are two people, and for some reason you wanted to be together at some point. So why does it stop after a breakup? Why do you no longer care about the other person or want them in your life? At least in my own experience, I've been lucky enough to feel that way and come out of the relationship feeling that way. So anyways, given that this is my podcast and these are usually just my thoughts, I want to make sure that my thoughts are reflecting my experience and her experience as accurately as possible without her being here, because that's just going to be me talking. So first of all, I should say that from my side, I guess, whenever I'm talking about these things, I obviously only know how I felt through the experiences before and after the breakup, right? I only know what my brain was thinking. And so at no point would I know for sure if actions that I took or did or anything might have been creating like a sense of confusion even for her. And what I mean by that is the two times, and I've talked about this on previous episodes, the two times, one time where we got back together and then now currently where we're speaking again as friends, both of those times I initiated that, right? I was the one who reached back out. I was the one who wanted to get back in contact. And I should point out that it's possible that that kind of thing can often create this sort of like false sense of hope or confusion, as I mentioned, for the other person involved, right? And I think that anybody who's gone through something similar like this, where you start to talk to an ex again or you start to interact with them, understands what I mean. It's almost like an unwritten rule, I guess. If you reach back out to them, you're telling them that there's a chance. And the difference is that in this current situation, we're not going back into this, or I'm not going back into this thinking that there's a chance. I'm going back into this thinking, what's next? what does our relationship evolve into? Where I think I've kind of like dropped the ball, and I've since corrected it through now like having a conversation, is I didn't continue to check in after we started this, I guess, time with being friends. I didn't continue to check in and be like, hey, is this okay? Like, are we all right? And that's what came up 2 weeks ago on the episode with AJ and Kabir. Was I told them like, okay, I'm going to reach out because I feel like if this has been on my mind and it had been bothering me that I wasn't sure how she was feeling, I should address that. I should bring that up. I should actually deal with it. And so I have. And now I have this much better sense that, okay, what we're doing is fine. As I'm talking about these things on this podcast, I need to just be mindful of how you all as an audience might hear what I'm saying and think of this person that you don't know. So on the note of seeing what's next and trying to figure out what's next, this I guess comes back to my belief and philosophy in a way that a relationship does not end after a breakup. I think that sometimes a breakup is more like a chapter ending rather than the entire book being closed. I wish that more young men and women would actually be able to experience a breakup like that, because I'm thankful that I have. I'm thankful that the breakup I've gone through is one where I feel like it can continue on in another form, that the relationship does not stop there. Because so often you'll hear stories of people who are going through breakups where it's just terrible and there's a lot of hurt through that. And that's not to say that when we broke up, I was sad. Of course I was sad. And I spent my time, I did my crying, you know what I mean? I listened to the sad songs or whatever that has to get me through it. Talk to the people that I need to talk to in order to understand how I'm feeling a bit better. But I don't think at any point through the breakup, I truly felt like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm never going to see this person again. I felt like, okay, there's another chapter, right? This book is not done. There is another chapter, and we'll see what that is as we start to, I guess, write it and discover. I don't want to say all this and like discount experiences where people have had, especially multiple bad breakups. I'm sure one day I'll get hit with one. You know what I mean? One day I'll get hit with one where I'm just like totally shook by it and broken to the point where I don't want to even consider speaking to this person. Maybe that will happen. Maybe my philosophy and my outlook will change on breakups, but for now it hasn't. And so I don't want to discount experiences from people who might have gone through things a lot worse. As I said, I've been lucky. I've been lucky, and I know I've been lucky in having a ex who is willing to talk to me still. You know what I mean? As much as I would have been willing, it's totally two ways, right? There's a chance that she wouldn't have. But I do think there's another side to a breakup that creates that negativity or doesn't end in a way where you can continue. And I think that other side is what is important to talk about on this platform, with this podcast, with On Your Mental. This is a podcast I've spoken about where I want especially young men to learn to be more open, vulnerable, and understanding with themselves so that they can carry that out through the world a bit more. All too often, I think that we hear the narrative after a breakup of like, oh, fuck them, they're crazy, or I don't need them, they weren't worth my time, like stuff like that. People can get really mean after breakups sometimes, and people can, I don't know, use that kind of defense as like a coping mechanism almost, it seems. Because going back to something that I said at the start of this episode here, when you meet somebody, you met them for a reason, or at least you welcome them into your life for a reason. And you should try as much as you can to kind of remind yourself of that. You know what I mean? I think that's why I find myself feeling so strongly about this and feeling as though there should always be an opportunity to continue things and not just have them end and just be a flat stop. And that's because I remind myself of why we were good, why we were together. And this is something that I've said to all my friends. I don't think it's something I've said kind of like explicitly here on the podcast, but I'll say it here. My ex is one of the best people to have come into my life. I've learned a lot about compassion for family from her. I think that's something that I took away. And I say that because I've seen her with her niece, her young niece, and her sister and her brother, and she cares so much for them. And I never had siblings, right? I don't have anybody who's going to be my niece. You know what I mean? I don't have nephews. I don't have a brother or sister to talk to. And so I saw how much she cared about her family like that. And that's something that I really admired about her, and I still admire about her, because she continues to be such a good, I guess, role model for, I think she's a great role model for her younger brother, and an amazing role model and a great aunt for her niece. She has this like crazy sense of humor that we both, for whatever reason, connect on. And that was something that I was so drawn to when we started dating, right? Those things don't disappear after a breakup, right? And those are just two things, you know what I mean? Those are just two aspects of our relationship that I think are able to carry over into a friendship, right? Like we can get along and hang out as well as we do, and that's because at the end of the day, we made good friends before we were great partners, you know what I mean? A relationship can lead to a breakup, but a friendship can still be there underlying, right? I think that's an ideal situation, or I would think it's an ideal situation. To me, it is, for people to come through a breakup and still be able to be friends. I think that that's a cool thing. So yeah, I mean, just because we broke up doesn't mean that I stopped caring about this person, right? And that's the message that I want to get across here. When I'm talking in previous episodes, and I'll probably talk about this kind of stuff in future episodes, or things related to this in future episodes, for you all as my audience on here, I just want to make sure that you're understanding the place that I'm coming from. You know what I mean? Like when I'm talking about these things, even though I might be talking casually about something, it's not from a place of lacking concern or lacking regard for the individual. It's just because I'm willing to talk about this stuff openly with my friends. So that's, I guess, like what I want to clarify by putting this episode out, but also to try and get people to understand and maybe reflect on for themselves, right? Like for all of you who are watching this or listening to this, if you've gone through a breakup, think back. I'm sorry to make you think about it, but think back to your breakup. And if it's recent, I mean, I'm sure that's not going to be a difficult thing to do, but think back and reflect on what worked in the relationship, what didn't. Why did you actually break up? You know, if there was just a feeling or a spark that kind of just died and you just stopped wanting to be together romantically, like at that level, that's okay. But what I would say to do is just kind of think like, okay, not act on it, but just think about this. If you were to revisit that relationship or that person, do you think you can continue to be friends? Do you think you could continue to move on in that way instead? Would it be possible? If you don't think so, try and identify the points why, and just really see if that's a for sure thing. Because I know through speaking to Kabir, who's been on the podcast, he and I both, I guess, view this very differently. The first episode that we had, we talked about how we feel about moving on past a relationship, right? What do you do after a breakup? How do you handle a breakup? And can you still be friends with an ex? He doesn't think so, right? And so it's two different approaches. So this message is kind of for the people who don't think so, who don't think that they could. Try and think about what actually brought you together. I know it can be hard, of course, when you see a person who you were with, for example, be with somebody else. That's not something that's easy. And I haven't run into that yet. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure when I do see my ex with somebody eventually, there's going to be a part of me that feels sad. I'm going to not like that, but that's just part of the journey. You know what I mean? I trust that I'm going to get through a moment like that we would both get through a moment like that. Okay. And that if the friendship, the underlying friendship that I think is so strong is actually so strong, is there, you know what I mean? Like we'll make it through those moments, and we'll still maintain a friendship. I don't know about y'all listening and watching, but when I was with my ex, she was like my best friend. You know what I mean? Like, and I've said that to Seb, my actual best friend. I told him that, like, she was like my best friend at the time when we were dating, because we would just do everything together, you know? We would want to do everything together. So why can that feeling just completely disappear. I don't think it does. I think that it's still there, and it's up to you to kind of determine if you can, I guess, hold on to that and like bring that back into your life in just a new way, right? Start that new chapter, you know? I think ultimately when I reflect back on my own relationship, I'm happy that it happened more so than I'm sad that it has ended or that it ended in a breakup, because I don't really think that it did end, you know? As I've said throughout this whole little spiel here, one thing that I would say, and this is, I guess, I don't know if criticism is the right word, but just a thought about my own approach since going through this breakup and trying to be friends. Don't do stupid shit. And I've done this. Don't slip an I love you out after the breakup. That doesn't help anything. This is the thing too, is like I've always said this, and I've said this on previous episodes as well, that I will always have love for this person. I think that there's a difference between being in love and having love. And so when I said that, and I said it quite early on when we had started talking again, haven't said it again since, and she didn't say it in that moment either, so it was a good call that she didn't. She's stronger than I am in that way. Saying that obviously can send like a mixed signal, right? That doesn't help with trying to remain friends. So I'm happy that she kind of called me on my bullshit in that moment and like basically said, don't say that, in a nice way. So if you end up being in a situation like this where you're trying to be friends, don't let those feelings come up and present themselves in that way, because that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help me because it made me think about that afterwards. It doesn't help her because now she's obviously going to take that away and think about that too. But to talk about for a moment what I think the difference is between being in love versus having love for somebody, I think when you start dating somebody and you choose, okay, yeah, I'm going to be with this person. This is the person I'm going to commit to. There's a good chance that you fall in love, right? There's a reason why you want to do that. Falling in love makes logic kind of fly out the window sometimes, right? And I think that plays into why, for example, we wanted to spend all of our time together. When you are in love with someone, that's all you want to do. It makes you crazy in the sense that all of your actions, or a lot of your actions, are devoted to this person. And I think what shifts when you may fall out of love, you can still have love for a person, but that's the underlying, I guess, respect and admiration you have for them. So when I'm saying that you can have love for this other person, it's the same kind of love in a way where I have love for all of my friends, all the people that I have on this podcast. You know what I mean? I love all of them, and they're all people that are really important to me. I'm saying all this, and I realize as I'm saying this, it's like I'm coming at this kind of blindly, I guess, because I've never been through an experience like this. You know what I mean? I've never been through a moment where we've continued on after a relationship and like fully seen it through and made that work. You know, I've like gone on dates with people who I'm still friends with, but that's different. Going through an actual relationship, committed relationship, and then breaking up and staying friends, I recognize that that's different. And I recognize that there's not a lot of scenarios where that works out. And so I guess that might be kind of telling. And you can move through this experience maybe with like a sense of caution, or a sense where, oh, maybe it's not going to end up working out. But I feel like that's kind of self-sabotaging. So I choose not to. I choose not to think of it that way. I assume that we're going to be friends and that it's going to be fine. You know, I think that the one thing that we'll obviously run into is when each of us starts dating somebody new, that's going to be maybe weird to see, you know, but we'll be all right. So anyways, yeah, I feel like I kind of rambled a lot, and I don't know if I made a shit ton of sense, but I don't know. This has been on my mind, and it's stuff that I wanted to get off my chest. So yeah, that's the whole point of the podcast. All right. I hope what I said makes sense and that there's something to take away from it. If anything, I would say take away from my message the idea that you can look back and reflect on a relationship that might have failed. Reflect and see if there are parts of that relationship that could still exist today. You don't have to do something about that. if you wanted to, do it. You know what I mean? If reaching out to an ex in a way where you wanted to still be friends is something that you feel could make you happy, then do it. Because it's made me happy. It's made me really happy. Yeah, I wish that people would be able to do this in every instance of a breakup, but I know that that's unrealistic. So yeah, if you're watching this, take that away. Take away the idea that there's a chance that there are parts of your past relationship that was romantic at one point. It could not be now. You know, you could continue on with a new chapter. Think about all the reasons that brought you together. If there's stuff that you can pull out of that, draw from those. Anyways, I feel like that's enough for me on this. I don't know if I got that much more to say. Yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Bit of a shorter one. And I feel like this is something, now that I've gotten this out there, and my friends who will see this, if any of y'all want to talk about this kind of idea more, now we can, you know, and you have a better sense of where I'm coming from. I've said in the past that I'm not big on astrology stuff, like all the star signs and all that, but I am a Pisces, and if that means anything, I was at Kathy's getting my nails done, what is that, like a week ago now, maybe. After getting my nails done, while we were there, there was an astrology book there, and one of Kathy's friends was showing us stuff in there and pointing things out and asked us to kind of like read for ourselves our own star sign. I took a picture of this one thing. I'll read it out real quick. So this one was in the book, this astrology book under Pisces, and this is the partnership section. So I'll read this out to you. And I don't know, I feel like I kind of identified with it. This is the thing. This is kind of why I don't like astrology, is like, why is it right? Why is it accurate? Why do you feel connected to it? It seems a little fishy to me, you know? I don't know. But I guess like people have been doing this for years, you know? There's a reason why they believe all this stuff. Anyways, so under partnership, it says Piscean emotion is readily poured into an emotional partnership. The loved ones may even be slightly overwhelmed with affection. Provided that their emotions are kept firmly under control, Pisces can bring something very special to a partnership, but their feelings are always very close to the surface, and surprisingly trivial matters can sometimes trigger a scene. Romantic and sentimental, when they fall in love, Pisceans tend to wear permanent rose-colored glasses. They will only dispense with them as the result of bitter experience, when the partner's faults are ruthlessly exposed. A clear view of reality, however, usually enables them to build up the relationship on firmer foundations right from the start. Not overly passionate, their somewhat romantic view of sex can be both tenderly and handsomely expressed. The whole idea of, I guess, having emotions really close to the surface, that's something that I've done, or at least I feel I've done. Sebastian said it about me. He says, you wear your heart on your sleeve. And there's advantages to that and disadvantages to that. But I think the advantage, and it's presenting itself in what I'm talking about in this episode here, is that I'm willing to continue to have that love there for a person without it having to be romantic. You know, I can bring that partnership and detach it, I guess, from the relationship and leave with a friendship. Anyways, that's where I'm going to end. So yeah, if you enjoyed this one, let me know. I look forward to the conversations that are going to come, I guess, from this episode. I'm sure my friends especially will have shit they want to say about this. So eventually we'll come back to this topic. But for now, I will see y'all next week. Peace.